Hey guys, on today's video we're wrapping up the chassis on the 46. I've really been plugging away on this thing and I figure I'm just going to show you what I've done starting at the back, and today we're going to completely finish this thing right off and get it off the table. So starting back here, I want you to ignore this ugly weld. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to finish welding everything out on this truck. Once I get it all disassembled, I'm gonna flip the chassis upside down and finish welding. I honestly don't know what happened. I'm gonna fix it. I'm not leaving it like that. But I did drop this 4-link bracket down to 2 inches like I was thinking about doing. I went ahead and did it. So now this bottom bar is still flat, like nice and horizontal with the rest of the frame, and it gives me 2 more inches of ride height. And you know, I think that's going to be best so I don't wipe out my oil pan and transmission pan, which are the lowest hanging parts. You'll see I notched out part of the cab. I know it looks like a wide notch because it is. And that way I have clearance for my drive shaft. And rolling underneath, I've got my drive shaft loop in place. Like I said, stuff's not final welded yet. I'm gonna do that when the cab's off. But, you know, if I break a drive shaft, I'm safe. I've also made a removable transmission cross member. So dropping the tranny should be pretty simple if I ever have to do so, which probably will. I really didn't want to have to cut the floor, but I didn't see any way around it. I just need the clearance. And I mean, I tried to cut as little out as possible so I can retain most of the factory floor. And I've seen a lot of guys, they raise the whole floor up, you know, 6 inches or whatever to give themselves the clearance, but then you lose the head height, which I want. So, you know, I cut out only what I had to. You can see the drive shaft loop sticks up inside the floor, but once I close this off, like that hoop is just below the height of this section of floor in this section. So once I bring sheet metal across, it'll be good. So I only cut out what I had to. And this part of the loop, I actually just bought off Amazon, and that's part of the 1.25 inch pipe, like tubing that I had that was actually the bar I had shoved through here. I used it there. Moving further forward, I've got my mid plate in, and I just basically I just have plates that are welded to the inside of the frame there. I've got my solid engine mounts built. Basically I got 2 tabs welded to the inside of the frame, some 1.5 inch tubing, and I think that's 3/8 plate. And again, I'll finish welding it out later. And then up front, I've got my spring perch built. This is how much I cut off the front of the frame. You can see that's where this 3.5 inch piece of pipe was welded, like tacked in. But after doing all my measurements and wanting to stick with as close to a factory wheelbase as possible, I'm at the 125 inch wheelbase, which is the same as any 3/4 or 1 ton Chevy pickup from 1946. So measuring from the center of axle back there, my white mark I've got right here, that's 125 inches, and that's where the axle's going to sit. And this perch I just built, I actually had, this is a plate for a U-bolt kit, like a spring mounting kit for a trailer. I actually had a spare one kicking around, so basically I copied it and this is going to sandwich underneath the leaf spring. And I've got this thing sitting at, if I can find it, this perch has to rake back a little bit. They say 6 to 7 degrees. Well, I'm at, if you can read that, it's at 5.5. Stuff moves around a lot when you weld it, and I was at like 6.2 when I started, and it's moved to 5.5. I can correct that a bit with the hairpin arms, which is the only thing I have left to mount on this thing, and then aside from the axle itself. These are the hairpin arms, and you can see I've got adjustments at both ends, but with these two I can change the rake of the axle a bit. But I don't want it, like I didn't want to make this thing flat and solely rely on those to change the angle. So most of it will be this, and I can still change it a bit with those to hit my 6 or 7%, and it won't put too much stress on the leaf spring. So yeah, basically right now I just have to drop the axle back in place, get it bolted in, and then we can measure back and mount our hairpin arms, and the chassis is pretty much done at that point. I apologize if you have to listen to my heater throughout all this. It got really cold and really snowy here up in Canada. We got some snow the other day. Quite a bit of snow. And there we have a hanging axle. Now I do have to come in here and trim some more of this off. I'm going to make it as tight to the tubing here as possible, because this is awfully close. So when this comes up, it's going to be pretty close. So if I trim it back, that'll be good. So now we're going to get these guys on. So this basically just mounts like so. So I got to make a hole back there for these guys. These guys, oh, and I dropped it. Where's the other one? Here's the other one. So I got to drill a 7/8 hole in the frame, slide this through, weld it in place, and then there's a bolt that slides through and mates up with that guy. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but this whole front axle assembly came from Pete and Jake's, and it's actually really nice. I actually really like everything that came with it, and it came with instructions on how to mount it. So I went ahead and measured the 37 5/8 back from the center of the axle to get my my distance back, and then it gives you all the measurements you need for horizontal and vertical. So that's where I'm going to drill my hole. We'll get this thing wrapped up. So now I only have stuff tacked together, and I don't even have the bolts tight. I just wanted to make sure everything fit, and I am pretty much done this. This wasn't supposed to be like a how-to video. This was more a progress video, and basically showing you that I'm done. And I now have to bust it all apart, and now then I can flip the frame around and do all my finished welding. And I no longer need this frame table. It's just in the way now. So I'm gonna bust the whole truck down to nothing again, finish welding the frame, and then get this thing out of here and put it all back together again. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. I'm going to bed.